What an introduction, huh?
Yes, say that you made a deck for your kids too. She also made a deck in her backyard for...
Oh, I built a deck in my
and so many other things.
I've done a lot of things. I first began tutoring when I was 16 years old. Our church group would go down to the inner city on Tuesday nights, and I was hooked. And over the years, I've taught many things, including piano, deck building, etc. But I was just thrilled when they asked me to become a tutor in the TRIO Student Support Services program, because I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. I don't have a lot of hours to give you, but they said, sure, we'll take what you got. So my first impression of Cyrus and everybody in the program was their enthusiasm and how excited they were about the tutoring program and how well they promoted getting the students into the program. Because what they have done by that is take any stigma away from needing a tutor and removed that, because we are all just at different spots on this long learning continuum. I might be here today, but I'll be here tomorrow. And someone is always going to know more than me, and someone is always going to know less than me. And it's okay to ask for help. So at SOC here, we have numerous workshops they offer for the students on study skills, test taking, anxiety, procrastination, financial literacy. All these workshops are geared up to help the students become successful. And I've done all those workshops online, and I've gone to several each semester, because then I can see what SOC is offering the students, and I can help make that come alive in the tutoring session. So there's a little bit more to tutoring than just sitting down and explaining the material. Sometimes it's pretty easy to sit down with a student, and they just need a little help with flashcards and some positive affirmation, and they're good to go. But more often than not, I find the student is not even sure why they aren't succeeding, and they just say, I don't know why, I can't get it. I just don't know why they get it, but I can't. So what I like to do then is just take the mystery out of learning. There is no mystery. There is no secret exclusive club to this. And so I have a little technique I use, and I'll ask them, I'll say, will you sing your, I'm going to put this up here, will you sing your ABCs for me? And they look at me kind of skeptically, and I'll hear, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I'll stop them there, and I'll say, okay, now how did you know not to tell me Z, Q, X, B, T? And they'll say, well, I don't know, I just know it. So I'll say, did you start out knowing it? And they say, no. Well, how did you get to know it? Well, I guess I sang them a lot of times, and I said them when I was little. And I'll tell them, you sang them and you said them hundreds of times, as many times as you needed to, and then you wrote them down. And they stuck. You repeated them over and over as many times as it took to get it. Now, I don't expect them to go home and burst into song about polynomials or the table of elements, but they can read it and write it and say it. I'm a firm believer of repetition, and hearing your own voice repeat the information really helps cement that in your head. And I like to tell them a story about, I had asked my own son for help. I was taking an online math class a couple of years ago. And I did pretty well, but I was stuck this particular day, and I asked him to help me sort out where I was going wrong in a series of steps in an equation. And he quickly sorted out the glitch, so I quit making that mistake, and he left the room with parting words of wisdom. He said, remember, your goal is to solve for X, Mom. You want to solve for X. But I was thinking in my head, no, I don't want to be solving for X. I'd rather be making cookies. I'd rather be digging in the garden, anything but solving for X. But I persisted, and I kept with it, and I got it. And that's what the student needs to do, take responsibility for that. But how do you take that learning, repetition learning, and apply it when you have all this information coming at you from every direction in college? All these classes, so much is coming at you. And the key is frequent early repetition. I cringe when I hear students say, well, I don't know why I didn't do well. I studied for 10 hours on Sunday night. And I'll say, okay, it's time for the bucket story. You're not going to hear the whole story right now, but suffice it to say that you have a 10-gallon bucket that you're going to fill up with water at point A, and you got to walk with it all the way over to point B. So you fill up your bucket and you start walking, and it gets heavy and some of the water sloshes out. So you switch arms and you lose a little bit more water. And this happens all the way back to point B, which might be your campsite. And you got two choices when you have this much water left in the bucket. You can either try to use it for what you intended it for, and if it was for washing up, you're probably still going to smell. Or you can take all that time and effort, go back to point A and get some more water with probably the same results, because you didn't put a lid on it in the first place. So I'll tell them, that bucket is your brain, and the water is the information that you're putting in it. And you're putting in this information Monday morning in class. And then Tuesday you have more information coming in, and it keeps coming in, and that other stuff's just going right out the other side. There's nothing to hold it in. So by the end of the week, you're left with this much information, and you have two choices. You can either try to go take the test with that much in your head and probably not do very well, or you can take all that time and effort to go back and try to put it all in your head on Sunday night with probably the same results. So how do you put a lid on it? Well, at that point, we quit talking about it, we just do it. And this applies to math, biology, chemistry, whatever. But supposing we're talking about the sliding filament theory, how your muscles contract. And we've explained it, they understand it, and I'll tell them, I want you to tell it to me. Tell it to me like a story. This happens, and this happens, and this happens, and then my muscle contracted. So you can look at your book. So they do, and they pretty much read it to me, but they're getting it. We go on to something else. But I'll say within 5 minutes, we'll do it again, and I'll say, you tell me what you told me before because I forgot. So they tell me the whole story of the sliding filament theory, and they're looking at their book. Well, the key is about 10, 15 minutes later, we do it again, and I don't let them look at their book as much. And then one more time before the hour's up, I say, look at your book briefly, 15 seconds or so, and then tell me the best you can by memory. And they can. They can tell me the whole story, and they're good to go. But I tell them, before you go to bed tonight, you go through it one more time. You think about it while you're driving in the car, while you're washing dishes. You think about it tomorrow, and that's how you're cementing it. So when the weekend comes around, all you have to do is refresh on this information. You are not sitting there trying to put it back in and get it to stick. And you've got all that time to make the cookies or go digging in the garden or do whatever else you like to do. And sometimes there are just so many personal issues that you have to deal with. The kids are sick, the car needs new tires, you have financial worries. And that stuff, though, that's just life. And life's going to happen whether you're in school or not. So how do you deal with that when you have all this focusing to do on your homework, but this stuff is crowding out any kind of effort in your brain for the homework? And that's why it's real critical that the tutors and the advisors stay in frequent communication. We have daily logs we keep on what transpired that day. Did the students show up? What did we work on? How it went? And then the advisors can help the students with those problems. And what we do in the session, though, is talk about them, acknowledge them, and I set some ground rules that say, okay, we're not going to talk about that this whole rest of the time. We're going to focus on what we're doing here. And I'm pretty strict about that. We're practicing setting it aside. We're not solving the problem, but we're not going to let it keep us from focusing right now. And then you have the issue of self-recrimination and a student that just says, oh, I did so horribly. I'm so mad at myself. I can't get over it. Don't know how to go on. And so I try to put it in perspective. I'll ask them, did you do your best today? They'll say, yes, but. I'll say, no buts. Did you do the best you could today with what you had and how well you were prepared and what you knew? And they say, yeah. I said, well, you're not competing with anybody else. You're just trying to do your best. And today your best is here. But if you keep at it, tomorrow your best is going to be up here. So what did we accomplish in a tutoring session? Well, we worked on those study skills. We've worked on the issue of not procrastinating. We have practiced getting things from short-term memory into long-term memory. And we freed up some time. We worked on time management. So as tutors, we don't always see immediate results. We'd like to see that D go to a B or even an A right away. But we have to know that we're laying the groundwork, the foundation for future endeavors. And I think about, what's in it for the tutor? What does the tutor get out of this? The tutor gets paid a little money, and you think about, though, if one of the key strategies to retaining information is repetition, think how many times I have repeated that information over and over that I might have just learned last semester. It's pretty well stuck in my head, so. But I'd say even more importantly than that is that maybe we're taking that old broken record, going round and round in your head, saying, I'll never get it. I just can't. I can't do it. We're taking that old broken record and getting rid of it, and we're putting a new record in its place that says, well, yes, I can, because I just did, and I'm going to do it again. And that's the best part about what's in it for me with tutoring.
I am really proud of her accomplishment, as I know her family are too.